Welcome to Behind the Brand, stories and strategies for building your creative business. This is brought to you by the Pinegateroad Studio. You're listening to episode 47. Welcome to Behind the Brand, stories and strategies for building your creative business. Here we take a deep dive into the brands of heart-centered businesses and entrepreneurs and unveil behind the scenes into how they're building their brands, as well as tips and tricks to how you can build your own dream business. I'm your host, Kelsey Kerslake, and I'm the founder of Pinegateroad, a branding studio for businesses and entrepreneurs ready to get their brands completely figured out. From finding your core values, making that beautiful brand identity that speaks to your ideal audience, to figuring out how to style and strategize your social media platforms and launch your new website, we're here to guide you each step along the way to build your dream business. Head to pinegateroad.com to get in touch today about working together. Hello, you guys. Welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you here as always. So today we have Jenni Heffernan Brown on the show. She is the brand strategist and writer at Primed Marketing. And I'm so excited to hear about her journey from being in grad school, all of the different places that she's worked in the past, and how that kind of led to her starting this business with her partner. And it's a fun journey that she goes in to explain, and I was excited to learn about it because, I don't know, that just thrills me learning about people's, like, how they started their business, why they started their business, and we share a lot of similarities in our beliefs and our core values and things like that. So it was really cool to just chat with somebody else who is really on the same page as far as a lot of that branding and that brand strategy goes. And also to just, like, go into the work ethic a little bit, because there's one of the biggest things that we did talk about on this show is actually taking action to make your dreams a reality, and how sometimes you just need to start and do the things before you plan or go too far into the strategy, even though strategy is what we do. So if you're looking for a fun new perspective on maybe when you should be investing in brand strategy, what brand strategy actually is, and how to make that work in your business, this show is for you. Today's Branding Bite is brought to you by the Simplify Your Success Summit. Head to pinegateroad.com/SYS to learn more about the summit that's happening online on your computer August 24th. One of the things I have loved about running my business is getting to meet so many cool people who are experts at what they do. There's something that I've learned that just gathering these experts, learning from what they've been through, and having that tight-knit community around those experiences is just, it has helped my business grow so much, just gaining those perspectives. We were never meant to do this all alone, and doing things that are educational, stepping back, working on your business, and getting inspired by experts in the field is something that I love. So I started the Simplify Your Success Summit to be able to gather experts and have 7 of them all in one day, where you can learn to kind of step back from your business, learn the key areas of growing your business, and learn how to simplify them. Through each of these experts' experience, you'll be learning how to simplify your business and do more of what you love. I would love to have you join me August 24th, Thursday, and just join the summit. It'll be online. It'll be something that you can set aside that day for just learning and to be inspired by these speakers, and just to step back and really work on your business instead of being really confined to working in it, like I know we all are so often. So again, if you want to learn more about the Simplify Your Success Summit and learn who the speakers are, what we'll be talking about, head to pinegateroad.com/SYS. Hope to see you there. Hi, Jenni. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good, Kelsey. Thanks for having me on today.
Yes, of course. I'm so excited to get to know you and chat with you and learn about all the things. I know we were just talking before the show and we were already like, blah, 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 all the things. And so I'm just like, okay, let's get going. Like, let's get to this.
We don't want all the best stuff to be on the cutting room floor.
Right. That's how I feel like when I get to meet some, like, certain new people on the show, especially, it's like we just start talking and then I'm like, wait, we need to like actually record this show and get to the stuff in there. So
have you had it where,
a sign of a good conversation.
Have you had it where some of the best stuff is after you hit record?
Yes.
That's happened to me a bunch of times.
And then I'm like, wait, can we like hit record again?
Like, can you say that again? But it's gone and you're like, no.
Yes, that totally happens. Oh, podcaster woes. All right. So I would love for you to start off by introducing yourself and then kind of talking about how you began your brand, your business, your podcast. Like I know you have a lot of stuff going on and kind of what led to that and kind of a short synopsis.
Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because you don't want like 5 years of my life.
Right.
So I am one of the co-founders of Prim Marketing, which is a brand strategy shop. We're in San Francisco, but we work with clients nationally. And we help folks kind of similar to what you do over there at Pinegateroad. We help folks really get clear on their brand strategy, which is a fancy way of saying like, who are you? How are you different than other people in the market? Who are you for and how are you connecting to them? And so the thing we really focus on over there is helping brands tell really great, compelling stories about what's true for them, what they stand for, what they're excited about their products, and connect that with the best customers who are excited to rally around their brand and share it and refer them and all that great stuff. So I started that business with my partner in I think it was 2014. I always get the year mixed up. We were working together. The sort of short founder story is that we were working together at a PR firm here in the Bay Area. And Sophie's a social strategist and just a genius at online connection. And I was more of the creative brain that was like writing and designing. I was making blogs and I'm dabble in graphic design and web. And so when we were at the PR firm, we sort of had this natural overlap where I would make a thing and then toss it over to her and be like, Sophie, I made this. And then she'd figure out where do we put it online and how do we cross promote it? And what are the ways that we can use this piece in a really strategic way? So I think I want to say it was December of 2013. We ended up finding out just a couple weeks before Christmas that we were not going to have jobs any longer.
Oh,
and it was so sad. But then in early 2014, we were the owner of that firm, felt really guilty and was giving us a lot of freelance work and trying to just help us land in our next place.
So the business wasn't closing. It was just kind of a layoff situation.
Yeah. It was a layoff situation. And the owner of that firm felt really sad. And like, there's just so much love there. And so when she would have clients that she could no longer service, she would toss them our way. And it was actually in front of those clients that we realized, oh my gosh, we need to umbrella our skill sets because we had somebody ask us, okay, who do I pay? Do I pay you or do I pay her?
Yeah.
And so the whole concept of Prim was initially born out of this idea of umbrellaing our skill sets to bring the best of our combined work and the best of our working relationship between Sophie and I to our clients. And so that work is deeply creative. It's got some really insightful thinking. It has a thick layer of connection, and we like to have a lot of fun while we're doing it.
I love it.
So
sounds like a perfect pair.
Yeah. I think people have told us that the best part of working with us is the energy that we have between us and how they get to sort of jump into that, and we just get to like play in their brands and run around in their businesses and help them create something more cohesive and a little easier to explain when you're in a networking meeting.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Which if you've ever been in a networking meeting and you have like marbles in your mouth and you're like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. No, I still feel like that sometimes. I'm like, I know my stuff. And then sometimes I still just get nervous and I cannot speak, but that is a personal issue. So
yeah, well, practice. That's how it always goes. Right.
And the podcast helps too. It's actually one of the reasons I decided to do it because I felt like I wasn't able to explain verbally what I was doing well enough or just have that presence with my voice and speaking. And I was like, I'll start podcasting. That means I have to do it every week. And I've definitely felt a lot more confidence in being able to explain what I do and just even talk to clients and customers and all of that. So it's been good.
Yep. Who is it? There's somebody that says like you find your voice by using your voice.
Yes. I'm not sure exactly who says it, but I learned that with blogging. And I started blogging, I mean, much like you, we were talking a little bit before with starting something creative in grad school. I started my business by just doing a blog in grad school, and that's how I found my writing voice. And it was just, I mean, I did it like, back in the day, you were posting 2 to 3 times a day. It was kind of insane, but just like tiny little posts.
Yeah.
But doing that every day, like not caring what I was doing, it wasn't a business at that point, but I was able to just practice. And eventually I was like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this. And now I use all of those writing skills in the brand strategy that we do at pinegateroad too.
Yeah.
So it's been helpful.
That's great. That's really, really great. I started my podcast for a little bit of a different reason. So that was 2014 that we started the business. I was in grad school, like you mentioned. I wouldn't recommend this to anybody during this.
Yeah, I thought you would have
period.
Like you did the business and jumped into grad school at the same time, which
grad school
I didn't know that.
First.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So
oh, wow.
Like the bigger backstory there was I was in tech marketing. I was a director of marketing for like a digital ad agency. Kind of had the dream job in a lot of ways where it's like I was making great money. I had a bonus structure, which made me feel very official, like we would hit our quarterly goals and I would get this huge bonus. And I had colleagues but I also just realized that I hated what I was doing. And, there's a lot of reasons why that specific role wasn't a great fit. But I had the gift of some time. My husband also works in tech, and he had a particular instance in his own career that gave us a little bit of breathing room financially. And, he kind of just said, look, if you want to quit and figure out what you want to do next. And I had never had that opportunity up until then, because normally you need your job to pay for your life. So I ended up quitting my job. And the thing that came out of that was I wanted to go back to school for writing because I've always been a writer. It's been a passion of mine. But I had never had any formal training. So here in San Francisco, I went back and got my MFA, my Master's of Fine Art in Writing. And this is the part that I wouldn't recommend was like as I was in that is when I kind of started working at that PR firm just to make a little bit of money on the side. And then when that whole thing kind of fell out, Sophie and I decided to umbrella our skill sets. And it wasn't really until about a year into our business at Primmed that I realized that I had started a capital B business. I guess maybe this is the difference between running an agency and being a freelancer. Like my initial thought was like, oh, I'm making some money on the side. And then it became larger, which was great. And also exhausting.
Yep. The same thing happened to me. I was taking on freelance projects and I'm like, oh, I have a business here. And then it got serious.
Right.
But I hear ya.
Yeah, exactly. But the podcast, so my podcast is called The Take Back Creative. And the podcast actually came about a year after I finished grad school. And part of it is in grad school, and you might have experienced this, like you have a lot of structure. There's all this great, like there's colleagues who take my work really seriously. I had mentors, I had deadlines. I was reading a novel a week. I was writing, 10, 20 pages a week, which is actually quite a lot of creative export.
Yes.
And then I graduated and all of that went away. So I found myself sort of in the midst of like, how do I build this creative career or continue to push myself as an artist, even though I'm like a budding baby artist. I don't have a huge breadth of work that's out there and famous, but I want to keep making work. And how do I battle my business just swallowing my whole life? And so the Type A Creative was born as a way to just have some conversations with other artists. So I have like writers and working artists and painters and filmmakers on the show, and they talk about what it's like to be in the business of both making their work and promoting their work and then paying for their life, because not all of those things, sometimes those things compete, and it's difficult to know how to navigate that.
Right. I have issues. Oh, So that's awesome. I love that you started the podcast as that way. Has it felt like you have your colleagues back, or do you work with Sophie on a regular basis, like in a physical location?
Yeah. So on with Primed, Sophie and I are together in a co-working space. It's called it's called the Hivery, and it's just north of San Francisco. So I'm in the city, and she's in Marin, and that's sort of our halfway point. And so 2 days a week, we take meetings there. We meet with clients. We're really collaborative. And then the other days a week, we work from home in our home offices, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which is actually a really, really great blend of having some private time. I'm sure you know, as like a designer, sometimes you just need to like pull down the doors and huddle in the cave and knock some work out.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's good for that.
Yeah.
And then like creatively with my writing work, or I have colleagues in my life that are working on novels outside of their job, or they're working on getting essays published in journals or magazines. And so I also have some creative friends outside of work that we're making, I call it art that we don't sell. So it's like art for the purpose of expressing, something else that maybe isn't for a client or isn't going to make you any money.
And are you able to fit that into your life, or is that what your podcast is fulfilling right now?
It's a little bit of both. I still am making work. I have a writers group that I meet with monthly, and I write essay. Essay is sort of my chosen form of literary writing. And so I still work over there. Right now I'm trying to go where the energy is. And right now I've been really drawn to kind of making these funky little like cartoons, and maybe sometimes there's like a poem that goes with the cartoon. So just really looking at like, how else can I use my creativity to make art that maybe just for me, or maybe I just share it with a couple of people. Maybe it turns into something, maybe it doesn't. So I'm trying to cultivate that practice. And then the podcast has been another form of expression around that as well.
I love it. So how do you make sure that you're fitting that into your schedule when you're running your business, living your life, and all of that? Like, what are kind of some of the tactics that you found that are helpful?
Well, there's a few things. I think the biggest thing I would say, though, is having other friends that are working. So, like, for example, similar to the way, like, if there's a new business owner who's listening to the show and maybe they feel really isolated and they don't know if they're doing it right and it's easy to lose momentum, you might tell them, like, go hang out with other business owners, right? Like, go get some friends that are also building businesses. And that's been really true for me on the art side, is having other people who are passionate about writing great poetry or creating great little cute cartoons, or, getting a novel excerpt placed. And so when you're meeting with them, a lot of times it'll, instead of like, oh, let's go for a drink, it's more like, let's go for a drink and we'll write for 2 hours. And so you can kind of have these collective artist dates with your friends where you're making really beautiful work and you're hanging out. And it's not something that's on deadline for a client. It's not, I guess, like the commercialism element is removed. And so there's a lot more freedom about what you can make. So that may be
it's just kind of for play and for you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I love that. I feel like everything I'm doing currently is so revolved around my business that I haven't made time for any of that. And I certainly don't have a group of artist friends to go hang out with and have art dates, but that sounds so dreamy.
But, the funny thing is, like, you probably do. I bet you if you, like, sent out an email and we're like, hey, I want to be better at knitting. Do you want to come over to my house and bring your project? Like, people would show up, and it's an artist date. Like, I think I spent a lot of time kind of wading through this on my own, where it's like, what does it mean to be an artist? And am I official? And am I published? And, like all this sort of head junk. But what it really comes down to is, are you working? So like a writer is somebody who's writing. A painter is somebody who's painting. So if you do those things, then you get to be an artist, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, everything I feel like I am doing is so geared towards the monetization of it, that it is, I haven't had that time I have the time, I haven't made it a priority to just sit and play. For a while, like one of my big artistic passions is actually typeface design. So I was creating typefaces while I kind of just like sat and hung out with my husband and watched TV. I got one of those, the iPad Pros, so I can like sit and actually just like draw out all my letters and do that. And that was really fun. So now I'm inspired to get back into it. I was doing a little, but that was kind of one of my that just fuels me, the hand lettering. I don't know. It's something that I don't have to worry about it being something that supports me. And it's just fun. Like I've never been great at drawing or painting or coming up with stuff off the top of my head, but letters are always structured. Like, know, it has to read as an A or a B. But then you can have fun around those parameters. And that's always something that has really worked with my brain. Coming up with like what you're saying, like your cartoons and your doodles and the writing, I would have no idea even where to start with that. But you probably have some like structure around that, like that you've built up probably, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, a blank page is literally the scariest thing.
Yes.
And I think, this is interesting because you might see this like in a way, like our clients give us so much of the materials when we're creating brand strategies, right? They're like, here's all the raw materials and it's our job to just rearrange and refine and polish and do all this other fun stuff. But a blank page is really terrifying. And so constraint is I'm learning in the artistic side, it's a really important part of my practice. So it could be simple as like making up some rules. I mean, like El Luna's 100-day project is something we talk a lot about on my show, particularly because it's a famous set of constraints, right? 100 days. So it has like a link.
I'd never heard of it. And then Juliet Meeks, she was just on the show like 2 episodes ago. And she was like, I started my whole business from this 100-day project. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is that? Yeah. And so now it's popping up again.
I'm so glad she was here. Juliet is our prim partner who does all of our branding for our clients.
Oh, yay. Yeah, no, she's incredible. I loved getting to know her. And yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing too that you would have to keep in mind, and perhaps anyone who's in those new stages of a business, like the first year or two, like you sort of go through like you're a baby business and then you go through like an adolescence. There's like a coming of age that happens where everything's really awkward and you're sorting through, you're learning things, you're maybe scaling, you're maybe doing systems, you're maybe shedding products. And I think, during that time, if I had not been in a full-time master's degree, I wouldn't have been making art either. So I just think that there's a time where it's like thinking about like a physical baby, like using that metaphor, like there is a time where a thing really needs to be cared for. And then at some point it gains a little independence. And, if hopefully you're gaining independence and you're putting in systems and structures, because I don't think anybody can go at that speed. Just like, as a new mom, I'm assuming that like, you're not going to do sleepless nights for 5 years, right? Like you can do that for a time knowing it's a season. And then it grows up a little bit and that gives you a little bit more space and time to start exploring what else you could be doing. So it is a season. New businesshood is totally a season.
So I have 2 sides of this. So one is I'm totally going through that as a business owner being 1 year in. And I would say in the past month or 2, I've really set up some concrete systems around what I'm doing, my schedule, and I've been literally the most productive I've ever been in my business, and I'm thrilled. Awesome. I'm like, why did I not do this like 12 months ago? But secondly, I am wondering, I get a lot of clients coming to pinegateroad who are just starting their businesses, and then they want to like invest in these big projects, building up their brand and doing all of the strategy. And like you said with the blank page situation, I'm like, well, if you're just starting your business, you're starting from that blank page. And it becomes a lot harder to even predict like what is working, what isn't, what needs refinement, like what kind of strategic placement you need to have. How do you help the business owners who are just starting out, if you do, or do you only take on clients who have, say, been in their business for at least a year. Because I'm not struggling, but it is this thing where sometimes I'm like, maybe my services aren't great for you if you're just starting out.
Well, both is the answer to that.
Okay.
So we have a couple offerings over at Prim. The brand plan was one that I was talking. That's sort of our signature offering. Keystone, is that a word? Your Keystone offering?
Yeah.
Cornerstone?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. One of those. It's our main thing. It's our main jam. And we learned, like, initially we started creating these for people who we would find that they weren't brand new. They weren't like blank page, but they were like 18 months, 24 months, maybe sometime, maybe as young as a year. But like that was the point at which they'd done baby business. They're now adolescent. They're coming out of adolescence and they're ready to say like, okay, I've been around the block. I know what's working. I know what's not working. Initially, I bootstrapped together this brand. I maybe did something on 99 Designs, cringe, everybody cry.
Call it the starter brand.
Yeah, I did a starter brand basically, and I'm ready to move into this next phase. And that's the point at which that they realize that they really need a strategy and they really need to double down. We actually made these strategies for brands who were in that adolescent phase. And just like adolescents, they were insecure. So like they would meet somebody for coffee and they'd be like, oh my gosh, Instagram stories, that's the way you got to go. And then all of a sudden they wanted to come back and pitch the entire plan. And now we need to be doing Instagram stories or like Snapchat. You're not on Snapchat, you have to be on Snapchat. And so they were constantly, it was like being in a little pinball machine that every time they got advice for somebody, their whole brand was changing. And it was expensive for them. It was a lot of wasted time. It was exhausting for us because you're reinventing the wheel constantly. So we find that the sweet spot for the brand plan is at that sort of either at that stage or it can come later. Like maybe you're introducing a new product. Maybe you're expanding to a new market. But when it comes to having something for beginners, we actually have something that we call the golden hour. And that has been our way of intersecting with people who aren't quite ready. We almost think about it as like an appetizer course. Because I'm with you, Kelsey. Like I've actually turned away clients where I've said to them, you're not ready to work with us. What you need to do is go do the work. Go do the work for like 6 months to a year. And you're going to find out, like I can armchair strategize for you, but I'm really just giving you my best guesses based on what I think and know about the market.
Exactly. And I'm like, I don't know until you actually go out and figure it out and do, like you said, do the work to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like bad because if people come and then they want to do the whole entire thing from just starting off, I don't know if that's going to work for them.
Right. And
like,
then
I just don't know. And then I'm like, are you wasting?
Like selling them something that you're not even sure if it'll work because you're like, these are my best guesses, but we're not basing this on any trends or science or data or, you know. Well, and the other thing too to keep in mind is for people who are doing that, they're actually getting paid to learn and they'll learn really quickly what that product did not work. This e-course is totally a flop. I hate working with that client, but they're getting paid the whole time versus paying you.
What do you mean by that?
So like the first year, let's say if they go away and do the work for a year or 6 months,
yes,
all those clients along the way are paying them for that work. So not only are they learning about what's working and not working for their business, but they're also making income at the same time. If they were to come to you in the beginning or come to me, they're paying me to learn.
Yep.
And so like, it's really in the client's best interest. I always say, go do the work, take some time. We offer the golden hour as a way to like meet with them throughout the process. We have some clients that will do them periodically, maybe once a quarter, so they can check in with us. And then once they've had a couple golden hours and they've done the work, then they can jump in and do that bigger strategy work. So,
okay. So one of the things that I did, because I was getting this a lot, and there's something that I feel compelled also to help the people that are just starting off as well, because I know that even if you are just starting off, you do need some help. Like you don't want to just like aimlessly go out there. I love that you offer the golden hour. It's like a strategy session, like for an hour. I love it. So what I started to do recently is I have a new program called First Steps to Freelance. And it is basically everything that I did when I was running my business and working full time. And it goes over like finding your core values, researching your competition, finding your marketing strategy, and doing your schedule. And I think there's one other thing, but it basically gives you that foundation to be able to be like, oh, okay, here's like the plan that I have in order to go out and make this happen.
Yeah.
But it's really built around experimenting around those things and having a plan and executing that, but also just seeing how it works and actually being serious about getting that stuff done.
Yeah. No, I love that you have that. Sophie and I have been talking a lot about maybe having some sort of digital offering in the future, just because we remember how hard it was that first year. I mean, it just felt like you don't know anything and there's so much information out there. And I mean, I think there has been a lot of like the women's entrepreneurial movement has grown a lot. I think when we were there, there wasn't nearly as many people out there with resources and things. And so I remember like trying to get in corporate or getting our LLC and finding out whether or not we needed insurance. Like there just were so many questions that we had, because sort of to back up, we launched our business because we had landed a client. And so we didn't have a website, talking about doing the work. We had no website.
Yes.
We had no business name. We didn't have products. We didn't have an e-course. We just rolled into this client and we both kind of took a risk on each other where she said, we said, these are the things that we've been doing for this other person and this is what we're good at. And maybe here's the price that you might pay us for a set of hours. So it was maybe more of a freelance setup. And she started paying us and we worked with her for maybe 4 or 5 months. And that client was the thing that really bootstrapped our business.
I love that. And you never would have learned that if you didn't just jump in and do the work.
Well, exactly. And I think the interesting thing is, I get why people want the bright and shiny, like the business card and the website and all these pieces. Especially like as a marketer, I totally get it. We want things to be polished. Yes. We want to put our best foot forward. But I think I see this happen with clients a lot where those things actually become barriers to, they've invested so much money and they haven't even tried to see whether they like it. So we always try to tell our clients, like, it's getting to the work as fast as possible. So how do you land the client before you have a website? And when they wrote us our first check, we had to go get an LLC so we could cash it, because the bank wouldn't let us open a bank account in the name of Primed because that wasn't a real thing. So we had to go do the paperwork to cash, get the bank account. And I think that was not like, oh, we're so smart, but that was the way it happened. And in hindsight, I'm really grateful because I would have talked myself out of a lot of things, I think, otherwise.
I think so as well. And I run into that with a lot of clients and people that I'm talking to. They want everything to be this like perfect, shiny something before. And you're like, maybe that isn't the answer though. Right. And you find out that like I put out this quote. I've been listening to Jen Sincero that, you're a badass at making money.
Oh, I love
And I've just been like having all the quotes. And this is one that like, it just spoke to me. So taking action leads to answers. Mulling ideas around in your head forever leads to indecision and grouchiness.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what focusing on some of those, like, I guess the aesthetic pieces before you actually do the work to figure out what you're doing does. It leads to that indecision. You're making like a decision on a color palette, but you don't even know, like you don't even have an offering to give a client or the clients to do the work.
And a lot of times your clients will tell you, like once you're doing the work, then you realize like, oh, we need a lower price point offering because people maybe aren't ready to work with us or to invest money in a strategy, but they'll tell you, right? And that's sort of how that
exactly.
came about. And that's actually worth way more than any strategist could tell you. I mean, a strategist is going to bring a ton of great value to your business, but your clients are going to be really the ones that you need to listen to.
Absolutely. And their needs, everything, like this is something I speak to my clients about all the time, or anybody who's in any of the pinegateroad classes or anything like that. But you are not like it doesn't matter what you like in your branding. It's about what the audience needs, but it's all about the client's needs and what actually solves their problems. It's not about you liking the color pink.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah. Okay. So we kind of like just did a bunch of stuff that was great and not even on any of these questions, but I loved it. But I would love you to answer if you have any values that you follow as a brand and how you live those out through your studio.
Yeah. So Sophie and I, a couple of years ago, we did put ourselves through our own brand plan process, and it was way harder than I expected. It gave me a ton of empathy for our clients because, like, you know, they always tell us, oh man, you asked some really hard questions. And we're like, oh, we know. And then when we had to answer them, I was like, Sophie, we asked some really hard questions. But I think 3 of the values that sort of come to mind in the business that we have kind of circled over time. And, you know, certain things like, I think your values are your through lines, and we've called our values different things over time. As we've evolved, but like the core essence of what that thing is has never really changed. So, but one of the big things that we really, really want for our clients and for our business is this idea that we're warm and approachable, that we make it fun. I think it can be really overwhelming when you're looking at the internet space in any form, and you can see like, oh man, pinegateroad has e-courses and they have this and they have that, and this other person has all these other things. It can be really easy to become overwhelmed or to lose sight of what's important, or to feel like you're not doing enough. And so we've always tried to make our brand approachable. And one of the ways that we've had a lot of fun doing that is with our email newsletter. It's called the Friday Windup. Our clients love our newsletter. It's one of the most fun things that we do. There's gifts in there. It doesn't take itself super seriously. Like, I know our website is pretty polished, but like where you see us interacting on the newsletter, it's, you know, it doesn't take itself seriously. We try to make a lot of great content there where it's valuable, but we also make it really fun. And then I think you'll also see that in our Instagram feed. Like, we've taken some pretty specific choices about the type of content that we publish on our Instagram feed. I know that there is something to be said for curating a color palette for your Instagram feed, but we've made the decision that our Instagram feed is what it really looks like to work with us. It's not what it looks like to work with us if it's white and gold. These are our real clients. This is really what our office looks like. This is really what we do every day. And we've made those decisions because I think in a world of very inspiring brands, we've found that we want to be approachable. We want to be who we really are, not necessarily like a shiny or glossier version of who we really are.
Yeah. Well, I love that, like, you took those values and then executed them through your Instagram and like how you're going to bring that to life. And it wasn't just like saying, oh, I have this one strategy and this is what I'm going to go after. It is actually taking those values and being like, what does this look like in real life? And then building that out. And I love that. That speaks to my soul.
Are you familiar with Tara Gentile's work?
Yeah, I actually went to a mastermind with her in March.
Oh, did you? Was it the one that she did? Was it?
It was the Being Boss Mastermind, and she was there.
Oh, okay. The one in Chattanooga.
Oh,
how cool. I love her. She's so smart, and
I didn't know about her before, and now I'm just like, you are a badass. Like, who are you? What are you doing? And why is everything incredible?
Yeah.
But yeah, she blew my brain with everything. So
she blew my brain. So I did she does Creative Live, and they record here in the city, and you can get invited or apply. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's free. Basically, if you go be in their live audience, you can watch the thing and have it free. And so I did her class, goal setting and planning to grow your standout business. And one of the questions that she asks in that is, she has you do the values exercise, and she asks, what are 3 things that I will do and I will not do as a result of this value? And I had never really taken things that far. And that blew my mind. There was so much that I was like, oh my gosh, like making these values really like have the rubber hit the road in your life is really interesting.
That's awesome. I love having like the 3 things for each value too. Because we do something in our studio and it's like my brand is, my brand isn't. And we make a big list of like what your brand is and how that lives out and like what it isn't. And that's something like I had to do. I worked in product design before I started my business. And that was something we had to do all the time, being like, this piece of stationery is this or it isn't that, and this is why it fits into the line. So then I was like, okay, this is how I know how to think through things, and incorporated that a little bit. But I love doing it for the values. That's really cool.
Yeah, her class was amazing. I actually used it because I'm like a type A person who can't not strategize my life.
Right.
And my husband's also an entrepreneur. We used that class and we did it for our marriage basically, and we have
we have
quarterly offsites where we go different places and we'll walk through the structure. We have an ambition statement for our family and we have family values, and it's been really fun. I don't know, strategists like to strategize.
I love that. I don't know if my husband would go for something like that, but I might try.
What did your husband do for work?
That's fun. He is in supply chain. He works for the Cleveland Clinic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, the way that we sort of came to the conclusion that we should strategize is, I don't know, like he has, a lot of businesses will do like key performance metrics where you're like every quarter you're setting goals for yourself. And so we just figured if we've been doing these in our career for years, why do we not apply this to the stuff that actually really matters to us? Like,
so how has that been going? How long have you been doing it? And like, I'm really, really interested in this. I've never heard of it before.
We've
for your marriage
for a couple of years. We try to have we call it a quarterly offsite and we do it twice a year. So we should probably just call it like a semi-annual offsite. And we usually will go book a really nice hotel at a resort somewhere. We'll try to like store up some points or something and spend the time. I really like Tara's stuff because it gave us a structure on terms of how to spend the time, but we spend the time like this past time we did values and things that we hadn't done before, but we look at like what's coming up over the next 6 months. What are the things we really want to focus on? How are our values either coming out in our life or not coming out in our life? So there's a lot of, I know this is sort of a tangent, so I won't go too far into that, but yeah, there's a lot of ways that we've just tried to keep like the same way that you do with a brand. Like if you want to make sure things are quote on brand, because that's like the making sure that you're connected to the heart and soul of that business. I want to make sure the decisions we're making in my life are quote on brand, in that we're actually doing what we want to be doing with our time, our money, our friendships, our relationships. And it's really easy for the dailiness of life to sort of slip away. And so it's like just a check-in point to be intentional on a high level.
Oh my gosh, I want to implement this so bad.
We've joked about
I love it.
Doing a class or course or something like that. Maybe
you should. Not even a joke. That is really cool.
Yeah. No, I would love to. That would be like a third business. So
right.
Trying to keep my life
You're like, with all that spare time I have.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So one of my favorite last questions is just to ask people about a product or something that they're loving right now. So I'd love for you to share something that you're loving.
You know who I'm loving is, do you know Becky Simpson? She runs Chipper Things. I love her work. She is so fun. And so for those of you listening who don't know, Becky Simpson is an illustrator, and she has like a product line where she has her illustrations on phone cases, and she makes these really funny flow charts, and you can get art prints, and she's got, like a bunch of just things that she's got pins. But what I actually had her on my show. I don't think at this point that we're recording, the episode hasn't launched, but she'll be on the Type A Creative. But what I really like about her work is that you can tell that she's having fun while she's making it.
Yes.
And I've been thinking a lot about that when it comes to both Primed and any like doodles or cartoons that I'm making and any of my own artistic practices, how do I have like worry less about whether or not the thing performs and has ROI? How do I just really focus on having fun, making something that feels fun so that when the clients see it or when other people receive it in some way, they can feel the fun in it. And she's been a really cool guiding light for that sort of unfolding in real life.
I love that. That's so cool to like think about the energy behind something instead of just like what it's doing for your bank account, pretty much.
Totally.
Aw, good. So just finishing off, are there any products or services that you're offering that you want to tell people about? And also, where can they find you online?
Sure. Well, I feel like we've talked a lot about products and services that we're offering.
Yeah.
But I will say that in the month of August, I don't know when this is airing, but we're having a golden summer sale, which I'm actually like very excited about because we've been doing this for 4 years and we've never put anything on sale. This is my first time doing it. So we're running a sale on golden hours in the month of August.
Oh, perfect.
So you can, if this airs during that time, you can head over to
it will. Okay. It's gonna air. We're recording on a Monday. It'll go live next Monday.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Yeah, it'll still be August.
So for the month of August, we have 10 golden hour slots on sale. So get them while you can. You can just head over to our website, which is primd.com, PRIMD. You can click on consulting, and that's a great way to get started and have just a powerful hour to think about, especially, I mean, we're coming into fall. Everybody's been like at the lake or at the river and hiking a mountain. They're not thinking about their businesses. And I promise come September, you guys are all going to start to freak out a little bit because you're not accomplishing or you're going to feel behind. So and
you're like, I said I was going to do this before 2018.
Exactly.
And now there's 4 months left.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen. And so we've put our golden hours on sale for the month of August. Just as a way to like kickstart that planning, looking at Q4, like what's the thing that you want to do rolling towards the end of the month, the end of the year. And then if you want to stalk me on the internets, you can follow me. I'm over at Prim Marketing on Instagram. That's the place that we post the most over there. We have a ton of fun on our Instagram feed. And then if you want to follow me, I'm at Jenni Heffernan Brown. And that's where you can find things about the Type 8 Creative and just other things in my life that I'm doing.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that you do and for this awesome conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey.
Bye. Thank you to our sponsor, Audible.com, for supporting the show. Please head to audibletrial.com/pinegateroad to get a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute and head to iTunes to rate and review the show. It makes a big difference in growing the show, and I'll be here giving you a virtual high five behind the scenes. You can follow along with the studio for branding tips, advice, and general inspiration on Instagram, username pinegateroad, or by heading to pinegateroad.com for everything else happening in the studio. Sending lots of love and wishing you an awesome week. You've got this.